Hopping wild. You got everything, mijo? His mother wondered. Roman nodded. He was beyond nervous. He was headed to the amphibia exhibit at the aquarium. There he'd meet with Virgil, who'd arranged a behind-the-scenes look so they could work on their project together. Virgil had been Roman's best friend for ages, until he messed it up big time last spring. Virgil was going through hell at home. His parents were fighting a lot, and he tried to help, but playing relationship counselor is not healthy for any kid. Especially not Virgil, who always took on too much responsibility for all the world's problems. Roman had wanted to be a good, supportive friend, but he'd been also dealing with his own drama. Nothing that came even close to what Virgil was going through. He just. Dylan was being a massive jerk about how close he and Virgil were. It stung most of all because he wasn't completely wrong. And Roman was nowhere near ready for people to know that. Virgil coming out to him around that time was exhilarating and terrifying. On one hand, he stood a ghost of a chance. But on the other, how could he confess now that he was so vulnerable without coming across as a creep? Virgil didn't feel safe coming out at home because there was so much fighting going on already. Roman, well, he'd always been the good son. Remus was a bit of a disaster, still loved and supported, but no one expected much of him. He made it clear he'd be content living in a van and traveling across the country that way. He was not interested in a family or a career, and that was fine, but that meant that all hopes lied with Roman, and Roman could definitely do the career thing. But starting a family like how his mother wanted for him was not going to happen. He was very gay and very much crushing on his closest friend, and he hadn't had the heart to break the news to his mother. Roman had gotten defensive over it when Dylan made fun of him for comforting Virgil. Some girls had overheard and fawned over him. He didn't care much for that, but it had Dylan furious, and so Roman basked in the attention and praise, not realizing that Virgil would overhear and feel betrayed. That was 6 months ago now. Summer had come and gone, school had started up again, and nothing much had changed. Roman hadn't been able to bring himself to stop the whole knight in shining armor routine. It was the only way he knew how to make sure other people would like him. He and Virgil hadn't spoken since. Roman had tried, but he chickened out every time he laid eyes on him, especially if he was walking with his new friends. He just hoped they'd been able to be there for him when he was being an idiot. Today, though, today he'd show Virgil that he was ready to be brave. They'd been given the assignment last week, and Virgil had texted him the plan almost immediately. Roman had been grateful for the chance to mentally prepare for the conversation they were going to have. Good luck. I know you'll be able to fix things. Why don't you bring Virgil over after? He can't say no to my cooking. His mom smiled. His parents had offered to help reach out as soon as they learned they'd had a fight, but Roman didn't want them to involve Virgil's parents. There was no telling if it would lead to another fight, and it was not his place to tell others about the trouble that was at play in Virgil's home life. He told them that it was his mess, so he should clean it up. Thanks, Mama. See you tonight, he tells her before rushing out the door. After today, he'd have his friend back. He'd make sure of it. He found Virgil waiting for him at the entrance, and seeing him kind of took his breath away. He'd gone through a glow-up since the fight, and Roman was still not used to it. He'd upgraded his wardrobe from just comfortable to comfortable and badass stylish. His hair was now a vibrant purple, and he was really good at applying makeup. Roman took a deep breath. He could do this. Charming, confident, helpful. That was the key. Virgil, hi! He greeted as he jogged up the stairs. Virgil looked up from his phone and gave him a wave. Hey, you made it, he muttered, not sounding too excited. But that was valid. Last time they talked, Virgil had seen what could only be interpreted as him using their friendship to get girls to like him. Of course! I can't believe you managed to get us backstage. This assignment is going to be a breeze. I got so many ideas already on making it look cool, he offered in a hurry, wanting to remind Virgil of his best qualities, the things that made him likable. The faintest ghost of a smile passed on Virgil's face. Success! Of course you do, he said. My therapist knows one of the people who work here. She introduced me to her to get me a weekend job here. Working with the animals has been a great help. Anyway, Miss Buncher is always happy to help out. She'll be showing us around and stuff, Virgil explained as he reached to pick up his bag. Oh, let me get that for you, Roman rushed, knocking their heads together in his hurry to be helpful. Ow! Virgil exclaimed. Oh, sorry, Roman said, trying to hide his pain as he slung Virgil's bag over his shoulder. Dude, you okay? Virgil asked. Roman nodded. Yeah, got a thick skull. How about you? Should we get some eyes on that? He felt so stupid. This was not going to get Virgil to want to be friends again. Never mind anything else. No, I'm fine. But you don't have to carry my stuff. Nonsense, I want to, Roman promised as he headed inside. You look really good, by the way. I never got around to telling you, but the new look suits you, Roman continued before Virgil could argue any further. Yeah, thanks. After, well, my parents finally realized I was a mess and got me in therapy, and my therapist suggested reinventing myself. Just do whatever weird, out there idea that came to my mind. That now was the time to do something out there with my look, even if I regretted it later. It wouldn't have terrible consequences. She was right. It kind of feels nice. Gave me the confidence to approach Pat and Lo. They are your new friends. The pastel sunshine and the kid who looks like he might be a teacher, Woman said, not able to completely hide how that stung. He wanted V to be happy and have a support system, of course. But he also wanted to be a part of that support system. They seem nice, he added, to sound a little less bitter. Virgil nodded. They are. You. Virgil, there you are! They were interrupted by Miss Bunchoy, aka the Frog Lady. She was a really sweet woman, and their backstage tour was admittedly very awesome. Woman was taking pictures left and right and allowing his fantasy to go wild with ways they could make their assignment visually interesting. Still, he wished he'd had a minute or so more with Virgil before they got interrupted. He could feel the underlying tension between them crackle every time they almost fell back into that old familiar rhythm. If if Miss Buncher noticed, she didn't mention it. Suddenly, someone came rushing through a pair of big metal doors. Anne! I did it! It worked! The blue-haired sciencey type exclaimed as she ran towards them. Oh my God! Terry, are you sure? Miss Buncher squealed excitedly. Yes, yes, yes! We gotta call the others. I want the whole gang together for this, Terry nearly screamed. Boys, I'll be right back. Virgil, you and your friend be careful around our little friends, okay? I'm just stepping into my office for a few calls, the guide said, a big smile on her face. Yes, ma'am, Virgil nodded, and then the adults left. Woman was staring at the doors that held this mysterious, amazing discovery. Woman? No, Virgil said, clearly guessing what Woman was thinking. I just want the picture. Whatever got that science person so excited, I bet your buddy Logan is going to go wild over it too. Woman argued. Why not try and make a good first impression on Virgil's new friends? He couldn't afford letting anything get in the way of their rekindled friendship. That area is off limits for a reason, Virgil hissed. Yeah, so interns don't mess up research, but we're not going there to touch anything. Just a quick look and we're back. We probably won't even have time to touch anything, Roman argued, already heading for the door. Woman, don't you care that I can get into serious trouble for this? Virgil demanded. That gave Roman pause. Maybe. But then he heard a sound. A quaint melody. You hear that? Now he was seriously curious. Um, yeah, Virgil agreed, sounding curious too. Look, if we do get in trouble, I'll say you only followed to drag me back. I'll take full responsibility. I'm going to check out what that sound was, though. I'll go nuts if I don't find out now. Woman argued, marching through the door. Woman! Virgil hissed, coming in right after him and coming to a halt beside him, just as speechless. Woman didn't know what he was looking at, but at the center of the metal contraption that was surrounded by schematics was a bright white light. The melody sounded again. Seesaw me, Roman sang, wanting to show off his excellent musical ear, which Virgil always found cool. But that made the light brighten. Roman and Virgil shielded themselves from the blinding light. And then Roman was lying on the deck of a ship, looking up at... Ah! Frog people! He exclaims as he shoots up and tries to get as far back as he can. Wow, Dad! Humans are really loud, one of the smaller frog people shouts. Look who's talking, Roman huffs, his mind going a million miles an hour. His eyes drifting over the deck. Right in front of him were 4 frog people, 2 tall ones and 2 much shorter. His brain managed to put together that the tall yellow and pink one were the parents and the other 2 were their kids. 2 smallish frogs that were pink and yellow respectively. They were all wearing clothes and standing upright. Ha! He's got you there, Ziggy, the tall pink one stated, ruffling the short pink one's hair. Then he looked at Roman. Hi there, human. My name is Prick Planter. This is my family. My wife Ivy. The tall yellow one who looked ready for adventure gave Roman a wave. And these 2 are our kids, Ziggy and Rose. What's your name and how did you get here? Sprick asked. He seemed nice, at least. Roman was still looking about. There were more, well, not just frogs, amphibians on the ship. I'm Roman, and there was a weird sound, and Where's Virgil? He asked. He couldn't stop himself. He needed to know what Virgil was aware. You're the only one who showed up on our deck. But your friend probably found himself near civilization as well, if not smack dab in the middle of it. That's how it happened last time, Ivy told him. She didn't seem too worried. But he's okay then, Roman pressed. The family nodded. That was a relief. Then something else the lady frog said clicked. Wait, last time? Yeah, when Anne and her friends landed here. It was a whole adventure. They even helped us stop King Andreas from conquering our world. Sprick explained with a fond smile. Woman's eyes widened. I knew it, he exclaimed. He'd been 6 when the sky opened up and the castle flew in. He'd been on an outing with Virgil, actually. It had been scary at the time. The giant herons, the robots. It had definitely kick-started his desire to draw and write about fantasy worlds. The adults had been scared too, but the next day they insisted that it was just a publicity stunt for some special effects company or something. Roman and Virgil never really bought it, but they had kept that to themselves. Adults could be dumb sometimes. They knew what they saw that day. It was all real! Oh my god! You gotta help me find Virgil, please. It's my fault we got stuck in here. I shouldn't have gone nosing around in the back room. I gotta make it up to him. I'll help you around the ship in any way I can while we look for him, I promise. I can't believe I'm meeting the frog people. Wait, you guys are good guys, right? Woman asked. Sure, they seemed like a sweet little family, but their king had tried to invade other worlds. The family chuckled. Well, he cares about morals. That's a plus, Sprig smiles. And he didn't land him and his friend here on purpose. That's a good thing too, Ivy added. And he's standing right here, Woman pointed out. Sorry, you're welcome to stay here. We are headed to Reptilia. We should land in a week. Chances are your friend is there. Let us introduce you to everyone, Sprig suggested. Woman was given the tour and met the dignitaries of the other amphibian people who were making their way to the fairly newly discovered continent of Reptilia, which held a wide variety of reptile people. Woman was assured that the reptilians might seem more intimidating than the amphibians, but they are civilized and wouldn't attack an intelligent being unprovoked. He just hoped they were right. The journey to this land was educational. The first day he did his best to help everyone in any way he could. He usually ended up making more of a mess or getting himself hurt. Well, man, I know I said you could help, but wait until we ask, all right? Spriggs suggested as he patched up a cut on Woman's leg. But if I wait until you have to ask, I'm supposed to know when I'm needed, what I'm supposed to do before people think to ask, he explained. That's my best quality, he muttered. That was what his parents praised him for, what his classmates thought was so great about him. If he didn't do that. Now, where did you get some bogus like that? Ivy asked. You can't read minds, nor see the future. That attitude sounds like a good way to have folks like take advantage of you. I know I would have exploited that back in the day, Captain Grime pointed out. He'd been a bit of a bully before the war against the king. Woman crawled into himself. He supposed some people kinda took advantage of the fact that he tended to try and do everything. It hadn't been as bad before the fight, but he'd always been a bit of a people pleaser. Don't worry, Will. I'll help you. Every time you forget to ask, I'll give you a nudge in the thigh, Ziggy offered. He and Rose were twins, and in many ways they reminded Roman of himself and Remus. They were close, but Ziggy was definitely a troublemaker. Rose was mischievous too, but she was more mature than her brother. Thanks, Gert. Though are you sure you can reach that high? Roman smirked. That got the twins and the adults alike laughing. By day three, Roman had put together that the Anne Sprigg mentioned on his first day was in fact Miss Boonchoy, the Mercy Woo Lady Olivia and her awesome wife Junan, who was teaching Roman real sword fighting, wondered about, actually wrote and drew Roman's favorite webcomic. They were all excited to watch him reenact the whole thing. Luckily he had his backpack with him, and luckily he downloaded the chapters that were out so far. It looked like the characters were somewhat based on her friends and the people she met here, though the story was completely original and the characters weren't exactly copies. But the knight who shouts his accolades at every opportunity definitely got his quirk from Yunnan. Her accolades now included devoted wife and coolest auntie. Roman wasn't sure about his Shasha person. When he saw how disappointed the captain was by this, he offered the reassurance that maybe Virgil had interacted with her. If the girls were still in contact with one another, then Virgil might have heard about her through Anne. Day 4 was his biggest breakthrough. He'd been playing hero with the twins on deck. They were perhaps being a bit risky. Roman had been feeling down and needed a distraction. Reaching the mainland felt ages away, and he was getting worried that Virgil would hate him more and more with each passing day. So the twins offered to distract him. It was fun, until Ziggy jumped on the railing to get away and Rose jumped after him. One moment all was fine, the next Roman was calling out, Frogs overboard! And diving in after the two. They got back on the ship fine. The parents were seething though, mostly at Rose. And suddenly Roman was triggered. Maybe something in the way they'd said disappointment or responsibility was a little too real for him. That's unfair, he called out furiously. The family froze in shock. Roman had been going out of his way to be polite and respectful so far. This was the first time since he landed here that he raised his voice. Sure, what they did was reckless, but they both did it. You can't expect Rose to be perfect all the time and give Ziggy a free pass. How do you think that makes either of them feel? His own words registered a few moments later, and it kinda came crashing in. Oh, I gotta talk to my parents about all this, he said as he put pieces together. Kids, why don't we talk about this in the cabin while Roman takes a minute? Spriggs suggested, gently ushering his family away. Roman hoped they figured things out. He sure could have done with having this breakthrough a lot sooner. Remus, what if he did mind that their parents had just accepted that he wasn't going to college? What if all that was a cry for attention? What was his family going through now? They must be trying to get him back. Was Remus upset with him? Were Virgil's parents blaming him for their missing son? What about Virgil's friends? How were they coping with him vanishing? And Terry and Miss Bunchai? Were they mad? Did they feel guilty? His thoughts were a mess, but thoughts of his brother and the pain he might have been in without Roman realizing kept making their way to the front of the line. Maybe. Roman? The planters mentioned you'd gotten upset. Could I assist? Roman looked up, only now realizing that there were silent tears streaming down his face. Lady Olivia was standing in front of him. I'm not sure how, he admitted. The nude lady sat down next to him in a very elegant way. He wished he could do that and look equally effortless. Have we told you of our attempt at springing Marcy free from the king before he infected her with the core? She asked. You got caught, right? He recalled. Yes, but what we didn't say is that our escape was delayed by an illusion of our worst fears. Mine was my late mother's disapproval at my own guilt over my perceived failures. It can be a heavy burden, a parent's approval, their hopes and dreams living on in you, she tells him. Rowan wiped at his eyes. It's fine. I can. He took a deep breath. He was doing it again, brushing off anyone's concerns toward him. He realized that he had a tendency to do so for years. Even when his parents asked if he was fine with that what was asked of him, he tended to insist it was okay and prove it by taking on more. I I'm just so tired sometimes. But I feel if I tell people that then you'll become a burden instead of an asset, Lady of Olivia surmised. Woman nodded. It's stupid. I know they love me. And the ones who would ditch me just because I have an off day are not worth my time anyway, he muttered. In theory, yes. But clearly you still worry what might happen if you fail at something you think you should excel at, Lady Olivia noted. Roman made himself smaller. I was so afraid of being an outcast. And then I ruined things with the one person that actually mattered. The one person who could make me feel like I didn't have to be 100% all the time. How do I ever make it right? He asked, his voice breaking under the emotion. Well, for starters, you can talk with him when we find him. It'll take some time for us to figure out how to get your children home anyway, so you'll have the opportunity, I promise. From there out, you take steps to change your behavior. And if you two are truly good friends, then you will work it out from there. Lady Olivia assured him with a pat to his knees before she got up and walked away. Thanks, Roman said softly. The neat lady looked back at him with a smile. You're welcome, Master Roman. Now come. Yunnan thinks a sparring match will cheer you up, she announces. Woman smirks and gets up. She might be right about that. The next 3 days were mostly uneventful, at least when it came to personal epiphanies. There were a few attacks from sea creatures they staved off, increasing Roman's confidence in his fighting skills. The planters had talked about whatever issues there were at play there. It gave Roman hope for his own family. And then they arrived at the coast of this new land. The planters greeted the people at the harbor and asked the harbor master if they'd seen a human around. Sadly, the answer was no. But Sprick assured Roman that his friend Maddie was currently staying with the local shaman. They might be able to help locate Virgil. Roman was rushing through the woods, eager to find his trail. The planters were calling out to him to be careful as they chased him. There was no time, though. Virgil could be close. He had to. And then he was caught in a net and hung from a tree. Gotcha, Roman? Roman stopped struggling. He knew that voice. Virgil? Thank God I found you. I'm so sorry for getting us in this mess. I had no clue that would happen just because I sang the tune. I promise. I was so worried, but you're okay. Or I think so. It's hard to see from in here. Can you, cut me down, please? This was really awkward. Sure, give me a sec. A moment passed, and Roman felt the net slowly coming down until he gently landed on solid ground. Then the net fell away easily. He got up and dusted himself off, looking around until his gaze found Virgil. Lady Serena said I'd found the final piece I needed for the portal back here. Should have known she meant you. She smirked. He looked so cool. He was wearing a black cloak and a shawl around his neck that he pulled away from his face as he spoke. He looked like a cool rogue with the way he stashed away his knife like it was nothing. No, no time for gay panic. You mean you have a working portal? That's great! I worried we'd have to have a whole adventure to make one, he grinned. We did, but I got that out of the way with Lady Serena and Maddie already. You can probably leave tonight if you want, Virgil told him. Tonight? Oh, that's wonderful! Wait, you? As in me? As in singular? He asked, shocked when that detail was registered. Virgil's smirk didn't waver as he got ready to speak. Roman! Rose screamed as she burst through the bushes. Oh, you found him! She nodded right when the rest of the family emerged. Um, everyone, this is Virgil. Virgil, these are the planters, Roman introduced swiftly. Hi, you guys kept Roman safe the past week? Virgil smiled kindly. Rose and Ziggy nodded eagerly. Yep, he's been super cool. He saved us from drowning in the ocean, Ziggy told him. Well, good thing he was there then, Virgil smiled. Kids, why don't we go say hi to Auntie Maddie? Ivy suggests. And under light protest of the kids who wanted to meet the other human, the planter family left. Roman turned to Virgil. You are not coming home? He asked, his stomach twisting and his head a mess. What should he do? Everyone's better off if I'm here. I've thrived here, Roman. I'm respected and needed, and it's for the best. Roman was about to protest, to beg and plead anything, but instead he took a deep breath. Okay. I can't say I'm not devastated to hear that, Roman admitted, trying to keep his emotions under control. Virgil blinked in confusion. But if you truly believe that this is where you belong, rather than back home with your parents and Patton and Logan, I'd love to include me in that, but we both know I've messed up big time as a friend. I'm sad that I won't be able to fix that. Not fully. But that is about me and what I want to happen, not about what you need. Can you do me one favor, though? For what we had is still worth. Woman pleaded softly. He'd have one shot to do this right. He better not blow it. Woman, Sure, whatever you want, Virgil promised, taken aback by what Roman had said so far. Good, he made a strong start. I'm sorry about what you heard that day. I'm not going to try to make excuses, but you deserve the full picture. I was too scared of people finding out that I'm gay. Okay, first time coming out, no big deal. And I reacted poorly to Dylan being his usual crappy self. I didn't plan on the audience I'd get, nor their reaction, but I didn't put a stop to it either. I didn't deny anything they said. I leaned into it because that felt safer. But in the process, I hurt you. And I am so sorry for that. I have been ever since I realized you'd overheard. I couldn't even look you in the eye after that. I was so ashamed. Last week, I was so eager to show you, to remind you that I was fun to have around, useful. I know that sounds messed up, and I've grown a bit in that sense. I'll take some time to unlearn some of that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I let you down when you needed me the most. I'm sorry I was too afraid to apologize sooner. I'm sorry that I was such a mess that I got us in serious danger. And most of all, I'm sorry that I didn't just man up and said what I've wanted to tell you for a year now. I have a crush on you. For me, it's always been you. And I hate that I allowed you to doubt how much you mean to me for even a second. Oh, that was a lot, but it felt good to have said it. You don't need to say anything. I don't expect a simple apology to change your mind, but I hope it makes you reconsider. If you didn't know how much you mean to me, maybe you're underestimating what you mean to others too. Just just food for thought. Woman muttered, before getting ready to turn and head after the planters. But his wrist was grabbed before he could take a step. You you mean that? Virgil asked, much more timid. Woman looked back. I wouldn't joke about that, he said firmly. Virgil smiled a little. No, no, you wouldn't. Let's go, I'm starving. Madame Serena turned out to be a snake lady, and Maddie was a frog with an aesthetic woman knew Virgil appreciated. He told him as much. Another thing they discovered as the dignitaries gathered was that Sasha was actually Virgil's therapist. Woman was glad that they could bring these good people some news from their friends, from whom they had been separated for over a decade. Woman brought out his phone and suggested making videos for each of them so they could say hi. They had a lot of fun with that while eating dinner. Gotten used to the local cuisine, huh? Virgil observed. Woman shrugged. The planters eased me into eating bugs, but I kinda like it now. Doesn't beat out Mama's cooking, but it's not bad, he admitted. The final hour before their next goodbye approaches, Madame Serena announced. Apparently she saw the future very clearly. She'd made statements like that all night and never been wrong. Can't believe you internally want to be around that for the rest of your life, Roman smirked, hoping to make it seem as though he'd fully accepted Virgil's decision. He hadn't, but he wasn't going to guilt Virgil into leaving either. Virgil just smiled. And then there was a bright light, and there were 3 more people in the room. And the amphibians tackled all of them in a hug, shouting names and crying their little cold-blooded hearts out. Then the human woman called out the names of the dignitaries and started crying as well. It was a sweet reunion of the 3 humans who'd gotten stuck in this world 10 years ago and their closest ties to it. We weren't building Roman's way back. You were giving me busy work, Virgil realized. Madden nodded with a smirk. You did help me a great deal with a few projects of mine. We will establish a direct communication line to our sister continent much sooner than if you had not been so dedicated to get your friend home safe as soon as possible, she said. Virgil didn't respond. He just hid his blush in his hood. Wait, you made a portal you never intended on using, he asked, baffled, only just realizing this. Virgil nodded. I mean, if you wanted to go back, you should be able to, he explained. Woman let that sink in. If, as in, Virgil had taken into account the possibility that he might have chosen to stay. What was going on? Virgil! Oh boy. Miss Bunchen was dumbfounding over her cousins. Virgil had nothing to do with Miss Bunchen. He said to stay put. I didn't listen. He just went after me to keep me out of trouble. First, stepping between Virgil and his furious supervisor. Miss Bunchen was kinda scary when she looked angry. I promise that he was only in that room to pull me back. I didn't even touch anything. I just mimicked the melody and then we were here. I've been feeling terrible over getting him in this mess all week. Please, if you are angry, be angry with me, he pleaded. A few moments passed by. I suppose that makes the most sense. But when we get back, you both are still going to have to answer to your parents. They should be waiting on the other side. The next portal opens in an hour. We weren't sure how close to you we'd be coming out, or if there was any fighting to be done. So, girls, let's make the most of it. Only now did Roman realize that the women were dressed in color-coded tactical gear. Cool. Come with me, Virgil whispered as the other world travel veterans started talking to their friends again. Roman followed without a word, curious what was left to say. We should have some privacy up here, Virgil muttered after he'd led Roman to a platform in the treetops, like a patio 10 feet off the ground. Roman got settled, curious what Virgil needed privacy for. Remember we saw the invasion and everyone said it wasn't real, like the very next day? But we believed it happened, and that there was an amazing world out there with magic and robots and flying castles. Woman nodded. It had been their favorite type of play pretend. Every time things got us down, we could escape to that world. And then I woke up here, and Maddie told me about the last time humans came to this world. And I knew we found it. Our fantasy world. And last week I wanted to try and convince you to be friends again. But I didn't want to get my hopes up, so I kept my distance. I didn't want to ruin things. But maybe if I could get you to meet Pat and Lo, even for just a minute, maybe you'd like them. And maybe you'd like the three of us better than those people who pretend to know you. Make you look so tired. Though I haven't seen you really smile in so long. Longer than just since that fight. So when I got here, I figured we could escape. We could smile again and we could be the way we were before everything became so complicated. But I knew that you might not want that. I was scared to hope that you want to be with here. So I worked hard to make sure that you could go home if you wanted. I wasn't going to keep you a prisoner here. Virgil was rambling, and Roman was trying to process it all. Virgil wanted them to stay here together? Virgil had been worried about him. But Virgil, what about the people back home? Woman asked. Virgil shrugged. I thought if Maddie's people can move on from Anne and the others and live their lives content knowing they're happy and safe. But seeing them reunite, I'm not sure anymore. And then after what you said, about how you felt about me, I definitely never dare to hope that, well, that you'd feel that way about me. He mumbled, the shade of red on his face reminding of a ladybug. And Roman was sure he was a charming sight as well. Did that mean... First things first. Well, we now know where the portal is. We could always try plan A first, and if things don't work out back home, we can always go on one of our super secret missions to come back, he suggested. Virgil let out a laugh. Their super secret missions were something from a past long gone, but maybe they didn't have to be. If they made Virgil laugh, Woman would gladly bring them back. That sounds like a decent plan, the cloaked magician's assistant allowed. Good, for a low to say goodbye to you. But I do have something that definitely needs sorting out at home. Do you think Miss Raybright does family counseling? Woman wondered aloud. Virgil really laughed at that. We'll see, he allowed. So, you are coming with me then? For the time being? Woman asked. For the time being. Virgil let out a deep sigh. We have a lot to figure out, he nodded. Woman nodded. Just consider it our next big adventure, he suggested, as he got up and held out his hand. Together? He asked. Virgil smirked and took his hand. Together.